Hello, welcome to the General Ledger Overview for your NAV-X. My name is John Klebb, and I would like to spend the next few minutes illustrating for you the most significant features of NAV-X General Ledger. Let's begin with the chart of accounts. This chart of accounts is real-time. Up to the moment in which you open the page, the numbers will be current. We can have beginning totals, ending totals, certainly all the detail, and that detail is drillable into the source transactions. There's no required close for NAV-X. Yes, once a year you'll want to move the income accounts into the retained earnings account, but other than that, it's date sensitive and very nimble. Unlimited history. There is no limit to the number of years and the number of transactions you may keep in the system, so your detail may go back as far as you wish, and it is very Excel friendly. Let's start off with a little story about segments. Many systems present to you a series of segments for your account number or your account template. We can have a travel account and a department and a territory, or travel, logistics, and central as I have illustrated here. Let's say we have 3 departments. That requires us to have 3 separate entries of the combinations possible: travel admin central, travel logistics central, travel sales central. But it can very quickly get complex and muddy up your General Ledger chart of accounts when we start adding additional dimensions like 3 territories. Because if we have East, Central, and West, then we have to have 9 separate segmented entries in our chart of accounts in order to meet the need of every combination possible. This we do not want. Now let's look at the NAV-X way. What if we built the NAV-X system in such a way that it was like a Rubik's Cube, so you could twist and slice and dice and see the information or enter information in any combination that you wish? Well, that's exactly what we've done. So let's look at those same 3 departments again and the same 3 territories with that same travel account. In fact, let's add a couple more departments and a couple more locations, territories. If we had a matrix like this, and we were in a segmented linear chart of accounts, we'd have to have 25 entries to manage all the possibilities of travel with the 5x5 matrix. And that's assuming only 2 more segments beyond the account core, by the way. Well, in NAV-X, we treat these segments as independent fields, which means you can pick travel, admin, and West in your entry. There is no need to have that predefined in the chart of accounts. Or we could pick travel, sales, and central in our entry. So any of these combinations can exist, and yes, the combinations can be limited. If executive doesn't go with EU, we can filter for that. And speaking of filters, so now we've recorded this information with this dimensionality. It's a very positive experience that if I need to pull a report on travel expenses by executive, admin, and sales departments combined in the Central and West regions, I simply filter my chart of accounts or any of my reports by those items, and I'll have the answers. Very powerful dimensions throughout the system. Of course, the system has a solid budgeting functionality. You can budget, if you choose, by the day, by the week, by the month, quarter, year, or even accounting period. And speaking of accounting periods, we haven't met an accounting period we can't handle. 445, 13-month years. They're all available because of the date sensitivity in the system and the fact that there are no cutoffs and no closes, which streamline all your activity. Of course, budgets can be entered by dimensions, so we keep all the slicing and dicing available, and you may have as many budgets as you wish. It's generally recommended, of course, that you have a lockdown budget for your fiscal year, but as the year goes on, if you want to project the year based upon the actual to date, you have that ability. And we can budget in Excel and import it into NAV-X, or we can export elements of the budget or last year's budget or historical figures from NAV-X into Excel to support those who may be budgeting. Let's spend a few moments talking about the general journal, or for that matter, journals in general, because all the journals in the system tend to approach the activity in the same way, which helps make you and your fellow workers efficient. You don't have to learn special journal activity for special areas of the system. First of all, it's very powerful that you can make one-line journal entries and have both sides of the journal entry recorded. You see on the left-hand side we have account types and account numbers, and on the right-hand side we have the balancing account for the other side of the transaction. This, of course, is useful if you have a two-line journal entry. If you have a multi-line journal entry, you simply leave the balance account type and the balance account number blank and enter all the lines individually. In addition, I want to call your attention to the account types. We can create a journal entry that hits the customer subledger, or the vendor subledger, or the bank account subledger, or directly into a GL account. And as you notice on the right-hand side, we can also hit fixed assets. So that third line down, the bank account NBL, is a credit entry into the bank account for $65,000 because we bought ourselves a BMW. Directly into fixed assets. This is a lot of power at your fingertips to streamline your work. Notice also, since we talked about dimensionality a few moments ago, there's your account number, area code is a dimension, customer group is a dimension, and department is a dimension in this particular demo system. And there are others, so not only 2 dimensions, but 3 dimensions in addition to the account, and an unlimited number of values in each dimension. And notice they don't all have to be populated all the time, but when they are, that information is recorded and you may report on that information. And finally, instead of cluttering up your journal lines with all kinds of ancillary information, the information for the journal line you have highlighted at the time is displayed below, and that keeps your keystrokes and your tab sequence in your journal lines very efficient. Speaking of that, you may arrange the order in which these columns appear on your page, not everyone's page. Each person gets to arrange them in their own order, and that way as you tab through, you may efficiently enter transactions the way your brain works. There are countless financial reports in this system, and I say countless because even though there is a finite number of report formats, you may filter, slice, and dice those reports by period, by dimension, by account, many, many ways, and that brings us towards infinity. But let's take a quick look at account schedules. You may have an unlimited number of account schedules. You see we've got a capital structure schedule, there's a cash flow statement, there's a income statement, one of just revenues. All of these are based upon the activity in the general ledger. And they're very easy to build. You simply key in the row as the way you'd like it to show up on the report, describe what type of row it is, net change, balance to date, and the cash flow issues, and then give it some other information that may be helpful to keeping the report straightforward. And you have your financial report, which, by the way, is viewable on the screen with drillability into the source numbers for each and every account shown. This is one of my favorites. It's called the GL Balance by Dimension report, or matrix. So I can see my general ledger and have it spread across the columns by any dimension I wish, including date, of course, which would be obvious. I could see it by months. In this case, I've done it by product type, auto parts, food, home, and we can see our general ledger real time by dimension. Slice and dice. Another view is analysis by dimensions. This is even deeper because we can go 3 dimensions, not just rows and columns, and depth. Here is an example of product types down the left-hand side, territories on the right-hand side. The depth, of course, which you don't see, obviously, on this 2-dimensional depiction, is the account range that's being reported. What general ledger accounts were chosen to come up with $106,490 in South America. And finally, I'd like to talk to you about some other general ledger features. Allocations is a very powerful segment. It allows you to spread maybe rent across divisions or other dimensionality. It allows you to do it on a recurring basis. It will even calculate on the fly the pro rata share that it should allocate to the various departments. Maybe they were talking about Social Security tax or Medicare tax, and you want to allocate it based upon the payrolls of the various dimensions that you have defined in your system. Complete featured bank reconciliation, including the ability to add transactions on the fly for maybe wire transfer fees or bank charges or things that you weren't aware of until the time the bank rec showed up. And we can do this electronic import from the banks as well. Intercompany is a powerful feature that allows you to buy and sell, issue purchase orders and sale orders between you and your sister companies if you wish, and or other companies using NAV-X. You can even spread general ledger entries across companies and manage all the do-to, do-froms. Navigation is one of the hottest features in the system. I always like to call it like a spider web. I know that doesn't have a positive connotation, but let me explain. Anywhere we are in the system, any transaction or any source document we're looking at, we simply click a button identified as Navigate, and then we're able to, like that spider, travel to any portion of our system, of our web of information, and see all of the related activities. And you're like that spider in that you know how to get around that web. It is not a problem. And finally, the Office integration is unparalleled. We talk to Excel and Word without question, single click. And Outlook, as you may have seen in other videos, is exposed right in your role center. It's very powerful integration between NAV-X, the Microsoft product, and all of the rest of the Microsoft ecosystem. In short, the general ledger is simple, agile, very visible, and powerful. Thank you for your time.